This week on Moyers and Company, your visits on the bus tour were to community-run programs that are making a real difference to the people we saw in the film. While he's short on specifics, Paul Ryan claims that his budget will empower those very kinds of community-centered solutions to the problem of poverty that the federal bureaucracy has not been able to solve. Are you willing to give him a chance on that?
Absolutely not, because the fact is that the federal government has been supporting, in part, these very programs that we were at. What people don't know is that the federal government money helps as the cornerstone, and that the fact is these problems are so large that we all need to collaborate. I totally agree. They're so big, so complex. We all need to be a part of the solution. Individuals, corporations, businesses, and government. We all need to work together on it. And Congressman Ryan would prefer just to pull the government out. It's not reasonable, it's not possible, it's not doable.
Sister.
My people would suffer.
Sister, are you saying that there are positions in Paul Ryan's budget that just pull out the federal government from welfare?
That significantly curtail it, and then with Medicaid, especially with Medicaid and some of the healthcare provisions of that, that would decimate.
Well, for example, my understanding is that it would lead to about 10 million people, an estimated 10 million people losing food stamps.
And another 20 million people losing healthcare coverage.
Paul Ryan speaks about the dependence developing on welfare programs. Is that your concern, that one of your concerns, that dependence is the unintended consequence of good, benevolent intentions on the part of government?
Well, Sister had all those nice people who we all want to support, and I agree. I mean, it's a heart-wrenching thing to see people put in those circumstances. But what's the alternative? I mean, we've seen this in the
question.
past.
What is the alternative?
What is the alternative? Do we just
change the wealth gap? I mean, that's a big part of the problem. Is that the rich have gotten dramatically? Well, I agree that's complex, but part of it is, part of it is the tax structure. Hedge fund folks that make all these $1 billion but pay way less percentage than you or I pay.
15% compared to what the third we pay on our wages.
Exactly. There are a lot of fixes where there's more revenue out there that's fair.
You can confiscate the wealth of the top 1%, and I forget what the figure is, but it lasts. Maybe it covers one budget deficit year.
That's a step.
$4 trillion. Yeah, I mean it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. But what does that do to the overall question? The overall question is, in the normal course of affairs, subsidiarity, one of the great discoveries of the 20th century, because subsidiarity started to come to the fore.
Which means?
We talked about this with Paul Ryan. It's not simply different levels of government operating. It's a vision of society as a whole, which includes the role for federal and maybe even international governments. It goes all the way down to the responsibilities of individuals, and at each level there are responsibilities that in the ideal circumstance we want to see those different levels operating on their own with their own.
Well, but the piece that's been missing in this whole conversation is the impact of solidarity. Because what we like to think is that they're dichotomies, but they're not, they're unity. And what Catholic social teaching says is that, yes, subsidiarity works, but as long as everybody has a strong sense of solidarity. So I hold your concerns and your worries, your engagement, as important as my own.